Welcome to Spill the Beans. This channel is about bringing you, the consumer, into the world of Malaysian F&B. This week we spill the beans on Kopitiam coffee compared to specialty coffee in cafes and why it's so important to have access to good coffee in Malaysia. We speak to specialty coffee roaster Joey Ma of Artisan Roast, 3-time Malaysian Barista champion Jason Liew, and 2-time Malaysian Brewers Cup champion Shaun Liew.
When you're in Malaysia, you drink a lot of Liberica, we drink a lot of Robusta, but that's a different type of coffee.
For Robusta and Liberica, they are lowland coffee, so that's why it's available in Malaysia itself. Whereas for specialty coffee, which is Arabica, which is in Highland and is not really suitable to be planted in Malaysia itself.
Lowland coffees, they don't really possess flavor. So they have the body and the caffeine, but lacks flavor. So what they do is they add that sugars and margarine or butter to really bring out those flavors. So that's why you get a less chocolatey, very caramel-like kind of flavors in a local coffee.
Generally, they roast it in a very dark form in order to really highlight those really intense coffee bitters and also the coffee aromatic.
To really give that aromatic and caramelized cup.
Local coffee is cheaper because of the beans itself. The beans character, it does not carry any I would say, positive flavonoids or anything. So therefore, the quality itself is very basic. So this is what makes it really cheap and widely available. And of course, it's easily planted as well.
We talk about the difference between you paying 3 ringgit for a cup of coffee and 10 ringgit cup of coffee. It's a completely different understanding and completely different type of consumption. You know, if you just want the taste of coffee, then probably it wouldn't pay so much difference. But if you really want to understand how does coffee really taste like, it's like when you drink a cup of tea, you can drink like iced tea in a Chinese restaurant. It's 30 cents. Then you want to drink a cup of pu'er or green tea, that costs you like 10, 15 bucks. It's a different type of coffee altogether.
It really caters to different people, different upbringing as well. At the same time, how they were raised. Some people were raised to be more exposed to Kopitiam coffees. Some people that are more exposed to specialty coffee. So it really depends on what you really like in a cup of coffee.
I think it's two entire different beverage itself. Specialty coffee, it's like a fine wine, you know, you want to find interesting flavors. Whereas local coffee is just like a straightforward drink. It's like Coke. You drink it, you know it tastes like this. It's strong, intense, fill up with caffeine, and that's it. So I really think it's entirely different drink itself and cannot be really compared.
Coffees at cafes, they are actually quite served very differently. Coffees are made using an espresso machine. There's more sophisticated grinders. Also depending on whether they want to go for an espresso-based coffees or whether they want to go for filter brewed coffee. The way it's being made is also entirely different as well.
For specialty coffee itself, the different varietals, it starts from like a tree. So Arabica is the very main species and it breaks down to many different varietal. So the few examples of varietal we can include like heirloom, Caturra, or some a bit more high-end like geisha, where it contains a lot more flavors and more premium in a way. Single origin means from one country itself. It could be different varietal, but it's from one country. So origin country, for example, Ethiopian, or I would say like Costa Rica, Colombia. So all this is considered as single origin coffee.
Single origin has been around for a long time, and then we move towards like buying from region, and then we go into the farm. You're buying from one specific farm. We want the coffee to be very specific in terms of their flavors. If we like the coffee, we cup it. We find that this coffee tastes great. We do not want to mix it with something else. You know, it's like when you buy durian, you have one great durian and from this tree. You wouldn't mix this durian with another tree, so then you wouldn't taste the same.
So for specialty coffee, the roasting process is more of, I would say, a light to medium roast profiles. We want to highlight the fullest potential of the flavors and of course taste and tactile balance as well from the coffee. Generally, Arabica coffees possess flavor, and of course if you roast dark, so you're not able to taste the fullest potential of the coffee itself, because you're actually masking that original flavors that the coffee characteristics actually have. So usually roasters roast it on a roasting machine, and it keeps it between a light to medium roast profile.
So in coffee, there's different, I wouldn't say roast profile, more like taste profile for me. So it depends on how one chooses to roast their coffee and how they want to present the coffee. So some of us like coffee that's a bit lighter. So coffee that's a bit more acidic, coffee that has more like, some call it character. It's like maybe more fruit driven, or maybe more citrus driven, or some like it more like a bitter driven, more like chocolate, more like caramel. We focus a lot on flavors, like the flavors that we want to present in a cup of coffee. I think it depends on how we value these kind of small things. It's about how we appreciate finer things in life. You know, it's not something that you should or you shouldn't. It's something more like, oh, I like this. Maybe I should pay more attention to this. You know, coffee can price from maybe $100 all the way to $200. So if you wouldn't know the difference, that price doesn't make any sense. You know, it's just another cup of coffee to you. We've been working relatively hard to make sure that there's availability of this kind of coffee in Malaysia. It's not like we're trying to push it, but to make available is a big step. I believe that to make available of these coffees, we're able to access it anytime. So our role here is not to only promote specialty coffee, but make it available, make it easily accessible and very easily understandable. So that's what we're trying to do.
Next week on Spill the Beans, we have a very special guest with us who's going to show us how to make the biggest, juiciest burgers. Stay tuned and don't forget to click subscribe. See you next week.